This is the third and final short video reviewing the basics of solving. In this video, we'll look at solving application problems or word problems. Solving application problems or word problems can sometimes feel a little bit daunting. We're often given lots of information, which we have to sort through and determine what's relevant to set up an equation. To make this process a little smoother, let's talk through a problem-solving process. The process I have written here involves 6 steps, and they're pretty broad so they can apply to any context, but the first step is read the problem. This seems somewhat obvious, but by reading the problem, we mean read it so that you really understand what you know and what you're asked about, so that you could close the book or look away from the computer screen and tell someone next to you what you're working on. This step here may also involve drawing a picture or a sketch of what's going on. After this is done, we can work on defining our variable or variables. This is important so that anybody looking on to your work can easily follow your setup. It's at this stage that we can say things like let x equal the number of snow cones I ate, or whatever the potential variable is in that problem. Once we have variables defined, we can probably use what we're given to write an equation. And then once an equation is written, we will be able to solve the equation. Stating the solution is important because if we just end by saying x equals 2, that hasn't necessarily told the reader the final answer to the question. And then checking your work is always desirable, just to make sure you've done everything well. So we're going to try out one example where I'll basically walk through these 6 steps just to show you how it works, and then you'll be ready to try some on your own. Here's our example. In the NFL Super Bowl number 49 held in 2015 in Phoenix, the New England Patriots beat the Seattle Seahawks by 4 points. If the sum of both teams' final scores was 52, find the final score of each team. Okay, so this context, I'm not super inclined to draw a picture, but a lot of times a geometry word problem picture will help. So I just want to make sure I know what's happening. I can tell the Patriots beat the Seahawks by 4 points, and we know their scores together add to 52. There are some numbers in this problem that aren't relevant. I don't really care that it was Super Bowl 49 for the purpose of answering the question. Neither does it matter that it happened in 2015. So let's go ahead and see if we can start defining our variables. I have 2 things that I need to talk about, the Seahawks and the Patriots scores. So I'm going to go ahead and use x because s can kind of look like a 5, but in this case, let's let x represent the final score of the Seahawks. And if I do this, this is implying that I prefer to add than to subtract, because what do I have to do to the Seahawks score to come up with the Patriots score? Well, the Patriots won by 4 points, so that means if I take the Seahawks score, which is x, and I add 4 more onto that, that should be able to describe the Patriots score. And sorry, I'm not color coding according to teams here, but anyways, I'm letting x be Seahawks and x plus 4 be Patriots. Okay, so I think that's enough to basically in the end be able to answer the question. But now we have to write an equation. So another important bit of information in our word problem is that the sum of both teams' scores was 52. That's how I'm going to write my equation. This tells me that the Seahawks score of x added with the Patriots score of x plus 4 is equal to 52. So we just added the 2 scores together to get the sum of 52. So we've read the problem, we've defined our variables, and now we've written our equation. Let's go back to our process one more time. I would say that these 2 steps here of defining and writing are probably the hardest part of problem solving, because where we're at right now, we just need to solve it and then basically interpret our solution. So if you're feeling pretty comfortable about where we're at in this problem, let's go ahead and solve. So I'm solving the equation x plus 4 equals 52. And we'll notice we have some like terms. So I have 2x plus 4 equaling 52. And then we're solving for x, so next I'll go ahead and subtract 4 from both sides. And that leaves 2x on the left-hand side, and 52 minus 4 will give us 48 on the right-hand side. And looks like the last thing to get x alone will be to divide both sides by 2. So at this point I'm really just going through the solving process. So that leaves x alone on the left, and 48 divided by 2 is 24. So our solution to the equation is x equals 24. But I'm not going to leave it here. I want to make sure in the end it's clear to my reader, whether that's your instructor or a classmate, what does this solution really mean? So if we go back to how we defined our variables and interpret it with a short sentence, I could say that the Seahawks score was 24. So they had 24 points because the Seahawks were X. And if that's the Seahawks, how do I find the Patriots? Well, we said take the Seahawks score and add 4. So 24 plus 4 more tells us that the Patriots had 28 points for their final score. And that would be basically interpreting our solutions so that we know what we found. How do I check my work here? Well, we know that the sum of their scores was 52. So if I add 24, what I got for the Seahawks, with 28, which we found for the Patriots, let's see, that gives us 52. So just a quick little check. So hopefully that makes some sense to you, the problem-solving process. If you feel comfortable, please try out the practice exercises under the Basics of Solving practice.